Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho. By the Friends of Idaho Public Television and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
I was riding the fence one day and I spied my first bluebird. I didn't know it then, but that bluebird was going to affect my life 40 years later.
Coming up next on Dialogue, the story of bluebird man Al Larson, who's devoted the past 40 years of his life to keeping bluebirds alive and thriving in Idaho. That's Dialogue next. Stay tuned.
I think when a person retires, he should have a plan ahead of what he wants to do with his life. If he wants to sit down and waste away in an easy chair, that's his business. But if you do that, you'll waste away real fast. I really didn't retire. I just changed jobs, so to speak. It was like going to work for another person, only this time it was for me.
Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. You were just watching a clip from Bluebird Man, a documentary produced about the yeoman efforts of Idahoan Al Larson. His second career, although he's never been paid for it, was to help protect our state bird, the mountain bluebird. Nearly 40 years ago, Larson became fascinated by bluebirds and eventually concerned about them. The bird was struggling because it wasn't able to compete for nesting cavities with introduced species like starlings and sparrows. So Larson started building and putting up bluebird boxes to give the birds a safe place to raise their young. Over 4 decades, he installed and monitored hundreds of boxes over 5 counties in Idaho and has banded nearly 30,000 bluebirds. His trailblazing work is chronicled in Bluebird Man, which has been shown on Idaho Public Television. And here to tell us more is the documentary's co-director and producer, Matthew Podolsky, and the Bluebird Man himself, Al Larson. Welcome. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be
and
here.
One note of disclosure, I was intrigued enough about this project when I first heard about it a few years ago that I donated to its Kickstarter campaign. I did not, however, have any role in deciding whether the program was going to air on Idaho Public Television, but it did, and congratulations. It's wonderful. It's also winning awards, and you just came back from DC, did you not? From
That's right.
The film won a big environmental film award. So what was that like for you?
Well, it was quite an experience. I never expected to be thought of as a movie star, but they greeted me as a movie star. I think I ranked right up there with Jimmy Stewart.
Al Larson Goes to Washington.
Yes.
Well, that's why you got a standing ovation, did you not?
Yes.
That's
yes,
amazing.
we had a large crowd of people there in the audience, maybe 200 or so, and everybody stood up and gave me an ovation.
That must have been overwhelming.
It made me feel proud and insignificant at the same time. It's just, I'm not used to that kind of recognition.
Well, as you say in the film, you saw a bluebird, you're riding fence line and you saw this bluebird and you had never had any idea that years later after you retired that it would become such an integral part of your life, that bird. Why has it? What is it about the bluebird that just does something for you?
Well, it seems like the bluebirds respond to the efforts that I put out to help them, and it's sort of a mutual type of feeling, I think. The first bluebird I saw was up on a high ridge, and I was just a kid at that time, but I didn't think an awful lot about it. But after I got started working with bluebirds many, many years later, my thoughts went back, and that thought of that bird or the sight of that bird flying off the ridge and down the draw it came back to me, and it's just something about bluebirds that I really like and enjoy, and they respond to the efforts that I put out to help them.
Banded nearly 30,000 of them over the years. We'll talk about that. Do you think it's the color, the size, the fact that they migrate? What is it that you think touches you so much? I mean, you could pick lots of birds to help.
Well, the bluebirds are a member of the thrush family, and robins are a thrush as well. And everybody loves robins, and very few people has ever seen the bluebirds, but I found out where the bluebirds live, and I help them by putting out nest boxes, and it's just their response to my helping them.
You could see your efforts coming to fruition. So how'd you hear about Matthew, or what'd you think when he first came to you and said, I want to make a film about you and what you're doing?
Well, that came about in a different way. We had a professor from the Boise State on a field trip, and she thought that would be a good program to get students interested in. And so she alerted Matt's partner, Neil, and Neil went on another trip with me out there, and he was fascinated, and he got Matt involved. And, well, for 2 summers, I had a microphone on me and camera in my face. So that's how it evolved.
When you were initially approached by Matthew and his business partner Neil, did you agree right up front, or did you have to think about, what did you think about having folks follow you with a camera? And
that didn't bother me much. I had people with cameras follow me around before, but not continually. As a matter of fact, I've had a couple of programs where Outdoor Idaho has featured me, and so it wasn't a hard choice. And I enjoy sharing what I have out there to show people, and it's educational to them, and it's satisfying to me that they're interested in what I have to say.
Matthew, what was it about Al's story that attracted you as a documentarian to it and wanting to preserve it? What did you see and feel that you wanted to share with others?
I think the crux of this, right? And you were asking Al about, what is it about bluebirds that makes them so special or makes you want to, undertake this project, this, almost 40-year project, sort of helping them out. That really ties into, I think, what interested me most in Al's story and about this project, which is this symbiosis that exists between Al and the bluebirds, and I saw this as an opportunity to show both how Al is helping bluebird populations in Idaho in this really dramatic way, like how one individual person who's just volunteering their time can go out there and have a measurable impact on a species. That is just amazing. But at the same time, that's just the beginning, because the other side of it is the impact that the bluebirds have had on Al. And I don't think, I don't think, Al, that you would disagree with me when I say that, that's the secret to your longevity, it seems like, you have this project that's kept you active and engaged in the local environment in a way that not very many people get, So it was both of those things, seeing them sort of work in conjunction with one another and seeing that symbiotic relationship between humans and a wildlife species.
Because you're 94 years young now?
Yes, I just had my last 94th birthday. Not my last, I hope.
But yes, there's quite a bit of work involved in putting these boxes up. You're walking long distances, climbing hills.
It's hard work and long hours. My trails are quite a ways from where I live, and it takes an hour and a half or 2 hours to drive out to the first box. And I make a trip to the boxes about every 8 or 10 days, simply to catch the nestlings at the right age for banding. And over the course of a year, I've put in somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 miles traveling.
And who knows how many miles hiking too, walking.
Oh, yes. I started out putting the boxes quite a little ways away from the road so they'd be protected from vandals. And I mentioned in the film that I now put them up as close to the road as possible. But I have walked at least 100 feet to most of the boxes and sometimes more.
Let's tell people what you mean by trails, bluebird trails.
Well, a bluebird trail might be construed as a bluebird walking along in the dust leaving a trail, but that isn't what we mean. When we put up a series of boxes on our route, that is called a bluebird trail. It can be on a trail, it could be along a fence line or along the edge of a road, or just meandering out through the woods. But if you have a series of boxes out there, that you call that a bluebird trail.
And these are through 5 counties, which is quite extensive. Can you explain what it is about the issue with these introduced species and the competition for nesting cavities that produced the threat to the bluebird? Why was the bluebird not able to compete as well for these nesting cavities and therefore saw its numbers decline and the need for the boxes go up?
Yeah, I mean, you basically have these 2 introduced species, the starling and the house sparrow, the European house sparrow, that were introduced to North America from Europe in the late 1800s and have now spread across the entire continent and are extremely common pretty much anywhere you would go in North America. Both of those species are also what you would call secondary cavity nesters, which bluebirds are as well, which basically means they make their nests and raise their young in existing cavities, but they don't create those cavities themselves. They rely on other species like woodpeckers to create those cavities, and they come in and utilize them. The problem is that, in a lot of areas, you have these really high populations of starlings and house sparrows, and they outcompete the bluebirds and other native secondary cavity nesters for the existing nesting habitat.
So the problem is just that there's so many of them.
Part of it is that, yeah. I mean, part of it is also that I think they are more aggressive in sort of defending those nesting territories than something like a bluebird would be.
Now you were going way out there on your own, and were you ever, I know you were stuck at least once in the mud with your car, because that's in the documentary, but were you ever, pre-cell phone, were you ever worried about being out there?
No, I guess I kind of grew up in that habitat, that environment, and I just felt at home.
We have actually a clip from the documentary that I'd like to show people that I think illustrates this very well. Let's take a listen.
I get a big bang out of going out alone. I guess I just like to be free. Just like the waves rolling in or the wind blowing through the trees. Just like to coast along and let matters take their own course.
This idea, this sense of being in the outdoors is kind of lost now for a lot of people, isn't it? Not many young people spend as much time in the outdoors as you did.
Well, I think when I see young people today, they've got that cell phone in their hand, and they're not interested in anything except something electronic. So we need to get these kids out in the open.
Well, another clip that I really enjoyed from the documentary shows you working with children. Let's take a look at that clip as well.
These tiny little babies,
Oh my,
these are about 2 days old.
little bluebirds.
Oh, they're little, teeny, itty bitties.
Mama, feed me.
Oh my goodness, look at that. That's incredible.
So the next generation, because obviously even though you're still fit and out there, there's a need for more people to take over your work, isn't there? What's the plan for that, Al, and encouraging the next generation to do this?
I'm involved with Audubon, and Audubon is involved with me, or whatever, and Audubon furnishes drivers for me now to drive me out in the boondocks. So if I do get stuck, I'll have somebody to run for help. But usually these are young people, and they become interested in what I'm doing, and I hope it's contagious.
Yeah, and one of our central goals when we started this project was, like you said, to show more people what Al's doing, to inspire, younger folks to get involved in bluebird conservation. And I mean, that's a problem that, there's a clip in the film with the president of the North American Bluebird Society, and she talks about how this is not just a problem that, that Al is dealing with here in Idaho, but folks all across the continent who've been involved in running these bluebird trails are now sort of reaching a point where they need to hand these projects over to younger generations in order to continue the monitoring. And what Al has done over the last 38 years is extraordinarily valuable. This data set, this 38-year data set, is really, really valuable. And it's not very common. It's not common to see a data set like that. And
and this is from the banding, which we haven't talked about yet, but you go into in the documentary. All the nearly 30,000 birds that you've banded, we're getting this data.
Sure, but it's not just the banding data. It's just the data on like when the birds start nesting. There's lots of, different components to this, lots of sort of data points that Al records. Plus there's the banding and the fact that he puts these U.S. Fish and Wildlife leg bands on every single chick before they fledge, which is a huge source of useful information as well. But it's really important in my mind to keep that effort moving forward and to continue that data set, because we're going through this time period right now where there really dramatic changes are happening in these ecosystems where we live, and to be able to look at the bluebird as an example to see how it's adapting to things like climate change and other issues is really important. So inspiring that next generation is crucial. That's one of the central reasons why we undertook this project, was to inspire younger people to get involved. And I think we're seeing that happen. Al mentioned like there are folks going out with him, almost all the time when he goes out. I think he sneaks out by himself a few times, but for the most part, there are drivers, students from BSU. I'm also involved in trying to sort of turn Al's Bluebird Trail project into a graduate project through Boise State.
Because you yourself have a background in studying birds, specifically raptors for a while, but you're interested in birds as well.
Yeah, I'm a biologist. I was a biologist before I was a filmmaker, so, and I'm a conservationist before I'm a filmmaker, So for me, making these films is sort of a way to get to that end goal of achieving a conservation goal. And so, that was our goal when we set out to make this film, was to, find a way to ensure that this work continues And hopefully we've sort of helped play a role in that.
What was your greatest challenge in doing this? Was it that the birds are so small and difficult to film sometimes, or was it following Al, or what was the?
I don't, maybe keeping up with Al out there on the Bluebird Trail. I mean, I can remember a few instances where we're out there banding, and Al turns to me and says, like, oh, it's starting to get dark, but I still have 20 boxes with nestlings that have to be banned. Like, are you all right if we stay out here? As it starts to get dark. But I don't know. I mean, as a whole, it was a pleasure to be able to accompany Al out on the Bluebird Trail and to sort of get this insight into his life. Definitely challenges associated with getting the Bluebird footage for sure. Spent many hours sitting in a blind, trying to get that footage. My colleague Neil spent many hours sitting in a blind trying to get that footage of the nestlings fledging from the box, which was really important for us to have in the film. Yeah.
Yeah, when Matt learned where the boxes were, he and Neil would go out without me sometimes and take pictures of the birds' activities. So they were involved with the wildlife as much as I was, you might say.
Well, that's probably one of the things that convinced you to have these gentlemen do it, because they were interested in the subject matter. When you look at the data that has been collected, Al, is there anything that stands out for you, anything that's surprised you that you've learned over these several decades of studying bluebirds?
Well, it's kind of common knowledge, but I find that the birds come back to the same areas where they were hatched or fledged. I had one bird that was a female that I caught on a nest 3 years in a row in the same box, and the previous year she was nesting in the box next down the road, and the year before that I banded her as a nestling just a quarter of a mile up the road. And many times I've found that the birds come back to the same box or the same area.
And tell people how far they are migrating. How far has maybe one of these bands been found?
My farthest one was central New Mexico. It's common knowledge that bluebirds migrate to the southern United States or northern Mexico, and then they start back in the spring, in mid-March, and come back to their territory.
And how are the numbers now in Idaho? Do we have a sense? Is the bird stable here?
Well, I think that they're stable. It's kind of hard to gauge that because I put boxes up, I get them all filled, then after a few years they're still filled. Have they increased more, or they're just holding steady?
The efforts of the North American Bluebird Society and individuals like Al who set up these nest box trails has been hugely successful. In many areas throughout the East Coast, bluebird populations are back up to close to historic levels. So, I mean, it really is a really amazing example of a successful, wide-scale citizen science project. And I think it is, one of the models that folks look to when they're setting up, new citizen science projects these days.
Can an average citizen do this? I mean, do you need a permit or something to go out and put these boxes up, or special knowledge?
Anyone can put up a box. You just need permission from the landowner where you put the box.
What about if you're putting it on federal, like a U.S. Forest Service land or something?
You should check with the ranger and tell them what you plan. BLM the same way. In the parks or whatever. We want to keep a good relationship with the landowners as well, and so it's a good idea to get permission.
I noticed you used a company called Spy on a Bird in your documentary. That was cool. I looked them up. teachers, if they want, can apply for grants with this company to get bird boxes so that their students can watch birds nesting and hatching.
Yeah, it's a neat company and a neat model, and they have these specially designed camera systems that are integrated into the nest box itself, and that the footage that's in the film, showing the inside of a nest box is footage from one of their camera systems. So yeah, and it's super neat, these programs. I mean, you can connect the box up to Wi-Fi and yes, live stream it. So yeah, definitely a neat opportunity for kids to be able to see inside a box.
What's next for you, Matthew? Because I know that you've been bitten by this bug of documentary filmmaking. I can identify with that. Mm-hmm. What are you working on now?
So I'm working on a new documentary about the vaquita, which is the world's most endangered marine mammal right now. It's a small species of porpoise that is found only in the very northernmost part of the Gulf of California. And it is critically endangered, probably 50 or fewer individuals remaining. And it's a very complex and in a lot of ways troubling situation what's going on down there with conservation efforts for vaquita. It's this issue where the vaquita are basically dying from bycatch in gill nets that are set out to catch another fish that's also endangered called the tituaba, to harvest the swim bladder of that fish to sell on the Chinese market.
Wow.
So very complex sort of global issue that is, threatening this really unique species of porpoise, which is endemic to Mexico.
And Al, what's next for you? You're going to keep going out on the trail?
I'm going to keep going till I drop. I can't think of a better way to pass away than to be on the Bluebird Trail. Be out there with my beloved bluebirds.
Well, I've enjoyed meeting you after seeing you on the documentary, and we will include links for our viewers to how they can watch that. So congratulations on the success that it's had, and I'll be interested to see where it all goes as well. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have. You've been listening to Al Larson, also known as the Bluebird Man of Idaho, and Matthew Podolsky, who co-produced a documentary about Mr. Larson, appropriately enough, called Bluebird Man. As I said, to learn more about that program, check out the Dialogue website. Just go to idahoptv.org and click on Dialogue. For Dialogue, I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks for tuning in.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho. By the Friends of Idaho Public Television and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Check out our website, become a friend on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter.